Grace Kelly. Admired for her beauty, style, and grace, and most importantly, her silver screen talent, this actress turned princess left a legacy far greater than most successful Hollywood stars. Grace Kelly was born November 12, 1929, in Philadelphia to a prominently wealthy family. Her father, an Olympic gold medalist rower, also owned one of the largest brick companies on the East Coast. Grace was one of 4 children with 2 sisters and a brother.
As a family, we were always very close. She was the baby for 3.5 years and loved every minute of it. She was very sweet and soft and loved to be held and cuddled and kissed and loved.
Growing up, Grace lived in a 17-room brick mansion. Her family had a self-made fortune and didn't come from old money, so her parents spent a lot of time focusing on their social status. They all excelled greatly in athletics, business, and politics, all except Grace. Unlike her family, she was very introverted and loved to read. She often felt like a misfit among them. Her mother taught her not to express her emotions in public, and her father encouraged a drive for perfection. During her school years, Grace would constantly star in school productions, and it was here that she developed her passion for acting. After graduating from high school, Grace expressed interest in going to college in New York. Although her father was adamantly against the idea, her mother convinced him, positive Grace would return after a week or so. Grace left the peace and quiet of her hometown for the bustle of the Big Apple and enrolled in the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, a move that would end up being one of the best decisions of her life. Being breathtakingly beautiful, she modeled part-time and appeared on elite fashion magazine covers like Cosmopolitan and Redbook. She also starred in a string of commercials and in national advertising campaigns. Upon graduation from the American Academy, she landed a few roles in plays, including a Broadway performance, and was shortly after quickly discovered by the emerging television industry.
The first time I ever saw Grace Kelly, she was appearing in the play The Father, and I thought she was one of the most beautiful and delightful actresses I had ever seen. Called her into the office the very next day to read for the role of Bethel Merriday, Sinclair Lewis book, which we were doing on the Philco Goodyear Playhouse. Cast her, and that was our beginning.
Who's this girl?
Oh, just a girl.
But what's her name?
Oh, I don't even remember her name. That was taken at Bar Harbor before the war. She was visiting friends there.
I'm jealous of her.
I don't even remember her name.
I'm jealous of everyone you knew before you met me.
In 1951, Grace received a telegram from film producer Stanley Kramer. He thought she'd be right to play the female lead in the Western High Noon.
I was a young producer, and he had sent me a photograph of Grace Kelly at the time we were casting High Noon. Now, I wanted an unknown girl. I asked to see her.
She got the part in what was ultimately Grace's big break into Hollywood.
Oh, Will, I'm begging you, please, let's go.
I can't.
Don't try to be a hero. You don't have to be a hero, not for me.
I'm not trying to be a hero. If you think I like this, you're crazy. I'm sorry, honey. I know how you feel about it.
Do you?
Of course I do. I know it's against your religion, though. Sure, I know how you feel.
But you're doing it just the same. Oh, Will, we were married just a few minutes ago. We've got our whole lives ahead of us. Doesn't that mean anything to you?
You know, I've only got an hour, and I've got lots to do. Stay at the hotel until it's over.
No, I won't be here when it's over. You're asking me to wait an hour to find out if I'm going to be a wife or a widow. I say it's too long to wait. I won't do it.
Amy.
I mean it. If you won't go with me now, I'll be on that train when it leaves here.
Looking back, Grace critiqued her role in the movie, saying she was too wooden and stiff. Rumors of Cooper's and Kelly's romantic entanglement began to whirl around Hollywood, but the two merely agreed Cooper was her mentor.
she began to work harder on concentrating on her objective. In other words, that would eventually be the cure for the way she attacked her characters to make them come alive.
What are you saying? You're drunk.
You know how it is on safari. It's in all the books. The woman always falls for the white hunter, and we guys make the most of it. Do you blame us?
Grace's next few movies changed Hollywood history forever. Master of suspense Alfred Hitchcock fell in love with her acting and cast her in 3 of his movies. Not only did she physically fit his typical leading lady role, blonde and gorgeous, he saw her as the epitome of the femme fatale. She had beauty, style, and sexual elegance. She first starred in Hitchcock's Rear Window. Grace played opposite James Stewart as his much younger girlfriend, together setting out to prove their neighbor is guilty of murder.
I've seen bickering and family quarrels and mysterious trips at night, and knives and saws and ropes, and now since last evening, not a sign of the wife. All right, now you tell me where she is.
I don't know.
What's she doing? Where is she?
Maybe he's leaving his wife. I don't know. I don't care. Lots of people have knives and saws and ropes around their houses. And lots of men don't speak to their wives all day. Lots of wives nag and men hate them and trouble starts. But very, very few of them end up in murder, if that's what you're thinking.
It's pretty hard for you to keep away from that word, isn't it?
You could see all that he did, couldn't you?
Of course.
You could see because the shades were up. And he walked along the corridor in the street in the backyard.
In the backyard, fixing the flowers.
Jeff, do you think a murderer would let you see all that? Let's start from the beginning again, Jeff. Tell me everything you saw.
Many critics felt the masterpiece was snubbed by the Academy, receiving only 4 nominations and excluding Grace altogether. After this role, James Stewart famously described Grace as too perfect, too talented, too beautiful, too successful.
Alfred Hitchcock used to say about Grace Kelly, with his usual wit, that her apparent frigidity was like a mountain covered with snow, but that the mountain was a volcano.
Another Hitchcock favorite starring Ms. Kelly was To Catch a Thief. Here, she played the romantic interest of Cary Grant. Grant plays a former thief who is suspected of rejuvenating his life of crime. To clear his name, the two take to the streets to find the copycat burglar.
I have to look out for Mother. They've tried to steal her jewelry before. So when I read about you in the paper, just a small item, but I picked it up. I was sure Mother would catch your eye.
Mm-hmm. Well, she did, because I liked that. Well, so far, Miss Stevens.
Fancy.
So far, you haven't said anything that sounds even remotely clever.
Well, stick around. The next thing I noticed about you was something remarkable.
No?
All evening long, you only looked at my mother, never at me.
I kissed you, didn't I?
I kissed you.
I certainly wasn't looking at your mother, then.
You were thinking about her. Otherwise, you never would have let me say goodnight so easily.
Well, I'm a gentleman.
A rough lumberman from the big Northwest.
I must remember to yell timber occasionally.
Now, here comes some of the clever part. You're just not convincing, John. You're like an American character in an English movie.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't talk the way an American tourist ought to talk.
You're a very nice girl, but you got too much imagination. You go around talking like that about me, and I'll wind up in a French jail for something I didn't do.
You're going to rob Mother first or somebody else?
Well, under the circumstances, somebody else.
That's nice. Mother likes you.
The comedy thriller was based on a novel and nominated for 3 Academy Awards. In 1956, Grace was cast opposite Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby in the musical remake of the Philadelphia story called High Society. This movie proved that Grace Kelly was multi-talented, singing a duet with Bing called True Love.
For you and I have a guardian angel on high, with nothing to do.
Grace played a woman torn between two men. One, the safe, secure option, and the other, her ex-husband, a little more fun and dangerous. An undercover reporter also falls for Grace's character, and now she is forced to choose between three men.
Hello, everybody. I just want to say that... Oh, will you stop that racket, please? Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. There's been a little hitch. I've made a terrible fool of myself, which isn't at all unusual. And, well, my fiancé that was, well, that is, he thinks we ought to call it a day. And I quite agree with him. And, oh, Dexter, help me, please.
Tell him 2 years ago I did you out of a wedding in this house by eloping to Maryland.
2 years ago, I did you out of a wedding in this house by eloping to Maryland.
And I hope to make it up to you now by going through with it as originally planned.
But I hope to make it up to you now by going through with it as originally and most beautifully planned.
So if you'll just keep your seats for a moment.
So if you'll just keep your lovely seats for a moment.
That's all.
That's all. Oh, Dexter, you sure?
Oh, but I'll risk it if you will.
You're not just doing it to save my face.
Oh, but it's such a nice old face.
Oh, come on, Dexter. We've no time
Okay,
to lose.
I'll see you in a minute.
In 1955, Ms. Kelly was one of the highest-paid actresses in the world and had a net worth of $40 million. She was asked to the Cannes Film Festival in France, where she met Prince Rainier III of Monaco. The prince was seeking a bride. If he didn't have an heir, Monaco would become part of France.
Rumors linking you with virtually everybody, and the latest one is with Grace Kelly. Would you comment on that for us?
No, I just met Grace Kelly. She came to the palace when she was at Cannes for the festival, and that's all.
Well, there are many stories that you're actively seeking a wife. Would you care to comment on that?
No, I'm not. That you can misquote.
I see. If you were to marry, what kind of a girl do you have in mind?
I don't know. The best.
He began to pursue her, and in April 1956, much to her parents' approval, she gave up stardom to become Princess of Monaco.
Miss Kelly, how do you feel on this occasion?
Needless to say, I'm very, very happy.
The princess's engagement ring was a 10.47-carat emerald-cut diamond, which she wore as her character's engagement ring in high society. The two married after a year-long courtship during a ceremony known as the Wedding of the Century. In a time where televisions were not in every household, 30 million people worldwide tuned in. Her wedding dress was designed by Hollywood wardrobe stylist Helen Rose. It was the most expensive gown Rose had ever created.
Will you continue with your career after your marriage?
Well, that decision will be made by the prince.
Is Miss Kelly going to make any more movies as far as you know? I don't think so.
The wedding marked the end of Grace's film career. The prince reportedly even banned her movies in the country. Together, the couple had 3 children, Princess Caroline, Prince Albert, and Princess Stephanie. She did, however, begin a new career and became extremely involved in many charitable organizations in Monaco, devoted to raising money for those less fortunate.
Princess Grace, is your life as a princess what you imagined it would be before you became a princess?
Well, I sort of became a princess before I had much time to imagine what it would be. You know, I don't wake up in the morning thinking I'm living a fairy tale. I have the job to get done and children to raise and a lot of responsibilities and obligations. If I take on something, I like to do it well, and I like to do it completely.
It was September 14th, 1982, when the world was struck with a great tragedy. Princess Grace and her daughter Stephanie were driving in southern France when Grace suffered a stroke, resulting in her cars veering off a cliff, plunging 45 feet. Princess Stephanie suffered only minor injuries, but Grace was in a coma for 24 hours before she finally let go at the young age of 52. The funeral for Princess Grace was held in the same cathedral where she was married just 26 years prior. This elegant and talented actress gave up being a princess of the silver screen for real royalty. Although she died well before her time, her timeless legacy still lives on through her films, charities, and her children.